Shalom, 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 family. I want to give call halal to Yahweh Shem Yahweh shall we do so on his beloved Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Today, as promised, we're going to be discussing who are the original inhabitants of Lebanon according to the Bible. And I humbly say, as I always clichély say, before you leave this class, you will know who are the original inhabitants of Lebanon according to the Bible, not white supremacist replacement theology. Don't mind my little bathroom essential. I don't wear these in public. The only time you will see me with one of these on is right here. Nowhere else. I kind of despise wearing it just because I see my people wearing it so much in the damn store, man. Nevertheless, no folly. We gonna get straight into it, family. Okay? So without further ado, let's get straight into the word of the Lord. Okay, first things first. Let's get Genesis chapter 10. Okay, we're going to get Genesis chapter 10. And it reads, Genesis chapter 10, and we're going to start at verse... Salakia family. We're going to start at verse 1, and it reads, Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood. So this isn't pre-Diluvian, family. This is after the flood. Okay? Pre-Diluvian means before the flood. This is after the flood. Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham got what we know as Africa. Shem got what we know as Mesopotamia or the Middle East. And Japheth got what we know as Europe. Okay, so now that we got those nations, let's jump down to verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush and Mizraim, which is the biblical name for Egypt, and Phut and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Seba and Havilah, and the Sapta, and Ramah, and Septicha, and the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan, and Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be mighty. He began to be a mighty one in earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Okay, now let's jump to verse 18. Watch this, family. And the Arvadite and the Zemarite and the Hamathite. Now, watch this. Hamath is Syria. And it just called him a Hamathite. Ite means descendant of. I'll just leave that right there. We're going to continue reading though. And afterward were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanites were from Zidon as thou comest to Gerar unto Gaza. So it says after that the Canaanites were spread abroad, and we're reading about where they were spread. It said and unto Gaza. Where is Gaza? Well, I have a map, family. Might be kind of hard to see. This is Gaza. That's the continent of Africa. That's Mesopotamia, Middle East. That'd be Gaza right there. This is where it's saying these Hamites dwell. Keep in mind, Ham is the father of Cush, which is a descendant of the Ethiopians, the father of the Ethiopians. These are where Ethiopians come from. And this is why this is also important, because some scholars believe, not so many, even so now, because a lot of Gentiles are waking up to who we are. They've been doing thousands of videos on it. But a lot of, you guys do realize that some scholars believe that black people come from Ham. But here's the thing. The Egyptians come from Ham. So by default, they will be admitting that we're Egyptians. Now they might say, oh, well, how do you know you came from that tribe? You don't know you came from that tribe? Okay, well, fine, you can say that. Not saying they will say that, but fine. He's still our descendant. He would still be our descendant according to them. So our Egyptians would be cousins or our long-lost great aunts and uncles, for that matter, according to them. But you know why they don't say that? Because they know that would attach us to royalty. So they have to play the game of, oh, you guys come from Ham, and they know y'all don't read. So that's why a lot of black people have no idea about Hamites who White scholars believe we are, who we descend from, are the father of the Egyptians. Some people that's in Kemet that believe the Egyptians don't even know that. This is why it's important. I'm just showing y'all the original inhabitants of this land. This is before the Sasanian Empire. This is before the Umayyad Empire. This is before the Ottoman Empire, which are Arab Islamic invasions that invaded these land masses, family. Which is why in Serbia, Bulgaria, certain parts of Asia Minor, you have European Islamists that was born as Muslims. How were they born as Muslims? Because they were invaded by Arabs during those times. Y'all do realize about 70% of people in Bulgaria are Muslims. Wait, that's Europe. The hell are Europeans doing native Islamists? That's because they were conquered, just like us. What majority is religion do black people adhere to? Islam and Christianity. Christianity was forced on us by the white man. Islam was forced on us by the Arabs during the Ottoman Empire, the Sasanian Empire, the Umayyad Empire. Okay? These things are clear in history. We just have to read, family. On which I have actually the Byzantine Empire. This is actually a map of countries the Arabs invaded. Okay? That's a country that the Arabs invaded. But nevertheless, I'm showing you where Gaza is. So this is where these Africans was. Not in what we know as the continent of Africa. They was in what we know as Mesopotamia. Okay? They was ran out of there. Let's continue reading. Unto Gaza as thou unto Sodom and Gomorrah, even Adamah and Zeboim, even unto Lashah. Verse 20, these are the sons of Ham after their families, after their tongues, in their countries and in their nations. So I just illustrated and proved that those are the people after their tongues, after their nations, and after those countries. Those who those borders were inhabited by. Africans, what we know as the Middle East. Let's get Joel chapter 3 and verse 6. Oh, and then Salakia, I need to get one more. Verse 14. I don't know if I read this already. I'll just read it again. Genesis 10 and 14. And Pathrusim and Cathusalim, out of whom came Philistim. So Philistim is an old English way of saying Philistine. Philistim is an old English way of saying Philistine. That's all that means here. You can fact check that with every source you know. Okay. Keep in mind we are reading the English Bible. Okay. Nevertheless, speaking of that, let's get Joel chapter 3. Let's get Joel chapter 3, family. Okay. Yeah, let's get Joel chapter 3. And as y'all already know, I'm in a new Bible again. I know y'all like, man, you always got a new Bible. Yeah, I do. Because my old Bible is damn near destroyed. I need to get that Bible because I know it like the back of my hand. Joel 3, and we'll start at verse 4, and it reads, Joel 3 and 4, yeah, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? Zidon is the first son of Canaan. And we know Canaan is the son of Ham, which is the Hamitic nations, the Africans. Okay? It said, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? And all the coasts of Palestine. Will ye render me recompense? If ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return recompense unto your own head. So why is it referencing Canaanites, Africans with Palestine? Because it's referencing their borders, their location, where they inhabited. And we'll get more scripture on that. These are the geographical locations that these Hamites inhabited. This is why God addressed them as Tyre and Zidon, inhabitants of Palestine, all your coasts. This is who he's talking to. Now, history. Listen to this. I know y'all like, well, why is it called Palestine? Would it be a Hebrew word? Which is, I believe, is Philistim, Salaki in the Hebrew. So, no. The word Palestine, that word came during the Bar Kokhba revolt in 136 CE during the Roman Empire under King Hadrian, Salakia. That's where that name Palestine came from. Arabs didn't invent that. That came from 136 CE during the Bar Kokhba revolt. King Hadrian named that landmass Palestine. Now here we are today. Okay, let's continue. Where was I? Joel 3 and 4. Is that all I want on there? Yeah, that's all I want on there. I just wanted to correlate that. Okay. Now let's get Judges chapter 3. Let's get the book of Judges. Hopefully I'm not going too fast, but you know some of these things are important. I hope you guys write them down. Judges chapter 3. Okay, let's get Judges chapter 3 and we'll start at verse we'll start at verse 1. Judges 3 and 1. Now these are the nations which the Lord left to prove Israel by them, even as many of Israel had not known all the wars of Canaan, only that the generations of the children of Israel might know to teach them war. At the least such as before knew nothing thereof, namely 5 lords of the Philistines. So every time you hear the word Philistines, think of Palestine. That's the original name for it. Okay? They're synonymous. They're the same words. Okay? Reading on. And all of the Canaanites and the Zidonians. Now, the reason why it's spelled with the S in the Hebrew and a Z in the Greek, which in the Old Testament is spelled with an S, and the New Testament is spelled with a Z, is because that's the translation with the Greek. It's pronounced. It was not pronounced differently in Greek, but the grammatical sense is differently in the Hebrew versus the Greek. Same words. It's just an S in front of one and a Z in front of one. Okay, that's all. And all the Canaanites and the Zidonians and the Hivites that dwelt in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal Hermon unto the entering of Hamath. Hamath is Syria. Hamath is the biblical geographical location for Syria. So we're reading about Hamites, Africans, Ethiopians that dwelt in their original own land in Mesopotamia, from Gaza to Palestine to Lebanon. Where is Lebanon on the map? And I know most of y'all know, I'm just doing this for a visual. Lebanon would be right there. This is the continent of Africa. This is the Middle East. Lebanon would be right there. Another quick little history lesson. Let me get this map. So this is the Suez Canal. That's the continent of Africa. That's Mesopotamia. In 1917, the British established a decree to establish a man-made river to divide the land, which is also spoken about in Zechariah chapter 11. We can get that too, okay? So in 1917, they instituted a decree to divide the land. That decree was took it into effect in 1948. And make sure y'all understand that, because a lot of Israelites say, oh, they put the land, the Suez Canal in 1948. They're not wrong, but we have to be historically accurate. No, the British sent a decree to have that land, that Suez Canal built in 1917, and we seen it take effect in 1948. Okay? Understand that, family, right there. Okay, so Lebanon. Okay, this is where they dwelt. This is their land. Not over here, where they try to make you think every African was from the day since this earth started chirping and burping. Mesopotamia. This is before the invasion of these Arab Islamists, family. Okay, this is why we gotta read and do our own due diligence. Okay. What else was I showing? Okay, yeah, I just wanted to show y'all that on that concerning that. Now, Judges 3. Yeah. Make sure I have my maps. Now let's get Judges chapter 3. Okay. Judges chapter 3. Let's go back to Judges chapter 3. Salakia. Okay, Judges chapter 3 and verse 3. Namely, the 5 lords of the Philistines and all the Canaanites and the Zidonians and the Hivites that dwelt in Mount Lebanon. Hivites, Jebusites, these are all Africans, family. Okay. Verse 4. And they were to prove Israel. Oh, Slakia, I forgot one part. Unto the entering of Hamath. Hamath is Syria. That's the biblical name for Syria. Hamath would be, let me find it. Where is it? Right here. That's Syria, which is Hamath. Hamath is the biblical name for Syria. Brothers and sisters, y'all can fact check everything I'm saying. Okay, that's the biblical name for Syria. These are where these Africans lived. The Middle East, Mesopotamia, before Arabs. Okay, but they want you to they try to make y'all believe that Arabs are the original inhabitants of that land. That's not true. Verse 4, and they were to prove Israel by them to know whether they would hearken unto the commandments of the Lord, which he commanded their fathers by the hand of Moses. And the children of Israel dwelt among the Canaanites, Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and served their gods. Those are all Hamitic nations you can read about in 1 Chronicles chapter 1. The Hivites, the Jebusites, those all belong to the father of Ham. You can read about those in 1 Chronicles chapter 1, starting at verse 4. Now, another thing I wanted to say. The reason, and this is why, because it says in verse 6, and they took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and served their gods. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and forgot the Lord their God, and served Balaam in the groves. Therefore the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Shushan Rishamathem, king of Mesopotamia, the Middle East. Now what are Hamites? What are Cushites? What are Africans doing being king of Mesopotamia, king of the Middle East? Because it was their land. It's clear, there's no way around that. Okay, and I know everybody's saying that. I'm just passionate. Salakia. But this is also what I wanted to tell y'all. This is why God said in Deuteronomy chapter 7, Ezra chapter 9, we're not supposed to go and take these other Hamitic nations. Because he literally said that they would turn him away from serving us. See, it's something called endogamy. Okay? Endogamy, which means only marrying within your race. God is all for endogamy. It's nothing wrong with endogamy. Okay? Loving your own people, marrying your own race, not tainting your holy seed. Okay? This is why God said, God made a law against that in Deuteronomy chapter 7. Okay? Now, for context, it was specifically against the nations. However, in Ezra 9, we do see him being more forthcoming with just saying nations in general. But the law in Deuteronomy 7 was specifically against Canaanites because they were known for so much idolatry. Okay? Just like how when you read in 1 Kings chapter 16, when Jeroboam married Jezebel, a Hamite, from the king of the Sidonians, and the brother went into idolatry. He had no business marrying that person. Okay? Let me put my charger because I don't want this to cut off. Salakia, one second. Okay, Salakia, I'm back. So yeah, Jeroboam had no business marrying Jezebel. Salakia, family. Okay, Salakia about that, family. I had to get my setup back. Okay, but yeah, man, Jeroboam had no business marrying her in 1 Kings 16, which is why he went off into those idolatrous things, which is also, that story goes on into essentially the split of the kingdoms, and Jeroboam was a major factor in that. I don't mean to divulge. I did a lesson on that. Go back and watch it. Nevertheless, yeah, man, this is why the Lord said we're not supposed to do that. Not to get too distracted, but let's continue. Verse 5, Judges 3 and 5. And the children of Israel dwelt among the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, And they took their daughters to be their wives and gave their daughters to be their sons and served their gods. That's all I want on that. Yeah, that's all I want on that. Okay. So I just read that to show you the correlations with the geographical locations and the land masses. Now let's get Joshua. Is it Joshua I want? Yeah, let's get Joshua chapter 13. Let's get Joshua chapter 13. Well, you're almost out of here, family. Stay with me. Stay with me. Stay with me. Okay, Joshua chapter 13. And I think I want verse 3. Yeah, I'll take verse 3. Joshua 3 and 13. Listen to this, family. From Sihor, which is before Egypt, even unto the borders of Ekron northward, which is a Philistine city, Ekron, which is counted to the Canaanites. 5 lords of the Philistines, the Gazathites, and the Ashdodites, and the Esclonites, and the Gittites, and the Ekronites, also the Avites. The suffix "ite" just means descendant of. Like if I said I was a Judite, I'm from the land of Judea. Okay, and it can also be referenced into direct genealogy. Okay, verse 4: from the south, all the land of the Canaanites and Marah that is beside the Sidonians unto Aphek, to the borders of the Amorites, and the land of the Gibeonites, the Giblites, Salakia, and all Lebanon. It's naming all of their lands, family. That's what we're reading. Lebanon. Okay. That's the Middle East. This is talking about Hamites. Okay, remember, Sidon is the first son of Canaan. Let's continue. From the south, all of the land of the Canaanites and Marah that is beside the Sidonians unto the borders of the Amorites and the land of the Giblites, and all Lebanon toward the sun rising from Baal-Gad under Mount Hermon unto the entering into Hamath. Hamath is Syria, family. Where is that on the map? Right here. That's Hamath. That's Syria. It just said Africans originally dwelt in Hamath. That's right here in the Middle East, Syria. Not over here in this big continent of Africa. They try to make everybody think all Africans are original. No. Like I said before, this is before the invasions, family. Okay. Let's continue reading. Joshua 13 and where I'm at. Verse 6. All the inhabitants of the hill country from Lebanon, which are the Canaanites, we just read that, of the hill country from Lebanon unto Misrephoth Maim, and all of the Sidonians, which is all that same geographical location. Okay, then will I drive out from before the children of Israel, only to divide thou it by the lot unto the Israelites for an inheritance